Captain Dae-ho Kim sat in his command chair, watching the massive alien space station grow larger on the main screen. The Soul's Pride was still 3 hours away from docking, but the station was already so big it filled half their view. He had never seen anything like it before. "Captain, we're getting signals from the station," said Bo-Ra Lee from her seat at the communications console. She was young but very good at her job. "They want to talk to us." "Put it on the main screen," Dae-ho said. The image changed to show a strange creature. It looked like a giant bug with 6 arms and bright blue skin. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into Korean. "Unknown vessel, this is Nexus Station Control. You are entering Galactic Council space. State your purpose and prepare for inspection." Dae-ho stood up and straightened his uniform. "This is Captain Dae-ho Kim of the human ship Soul's Pride. We come in peace. We want to talk and maybe trade with your people." The alien creatures. Big eyes blinked several times. It turned to talk to someone off-screen, then looked back. "Human? We have no records of your species. You will dock at Bay 47. A team will meet you there." The screen went dark. Bo-Ra looked at her captain with worry. "Sir, their weapons are pointed at us. Should we raise our shields?" Dae-ho smiled. "No need. We're here to make friends, not fight. Besides, their weapons look very old. I don't think they could hurt us even if they tried." 2 hours later, the Soul's Pride docked at the alien station. Dae-ho took a small team with him to meet the aliens. Bo-Ra came along to help with talking, and so did Dr. Yeon-Soo Han, their science officer. The docking bay was huge, much bigger than anything humans had built. But as they walked through it, Dae-ho noticed something strange. The metal walls looked old and worn. The lights were dim. Everything seemed to be just barely working. A group of aliens waited for them. The bug-like creature from the screen was there, along with several others. One looked like a walking tree, another was made of what seemed like living crystal, and there were a few that looked almost human but with different colored skin. "Welcome to Nexus Station," said the bug creature. "I am Counselor Threx. These are my fellow council members. We represent the 47 species of the Galactic Council." "It's an honor to meet you," Dae-ho said, bowing slightly. "We're excited to learn about your civilization." Threx's 6 arms moved in what might have been surprise. "Your civilization is very young, yes? You have just learned to travel between stars?" "We've been traveling in space for a while now," Dae-ho said carefully. He didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want to scare them. The crystal alien stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Quilon. Tell us, how did you build your ship? Do you use chemical rockets? Nuclear power, perhaps?" Dr. Yeon-Soo looked at Dae-ho, who nodded. "We use fusion reactors for power," she said. "And our engines use a type of space-folding technology." The aliens looked at each other with confusion. Threx spoke up. "Space-folding? That is advanced. But surely you must be new to space travel. Your ship is so small." Bo-Ra almost laughed, but caught herself. The Soul's Pride was actually one of their smaller ships, used mainly for exploring. But she stayed quiet. "Perhaps we could give you a tour of our station," said the tree-like alien. "You can see how a real space civilization works. We have been traveling the stars for over 3,000 years. As they walked through the station, the aliens proudly showed off their technology. They had artificial gravity, which they said was very advanced. They had computers that could translate languages, which they called amazing. They had weapons that could destroy large rocks, which they said made them very powerful. Dae-ho and his team were polite and acted impressed, but privately, they were shocked at how old everything seemed. The artificial gravity was weak and kept flickering. The computers were slower than the simple devices human children used for games. The weapons looked like they could barely damage a human shuttle. "Your technology is very interesting," Dae-ho said. It was true, just not in the way the aliens thought. They were taken to a meeting room where more alien officials waited. A large, creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard stood up. "I am Fleet Admiral Kieran of the Valtori Empire. We are the strongest military force in the galaxy." "It's good to meet you," Deho said. Kieran looked at the human captain with what seemed like pity. "Your people are very brave to come so far with such a small ship. But space is dangerous. There are pirates, raiders, and worse things out here. Young species like yours often don't survive long." "We appreciate your concern," Deho said. "Fortunately, the Galactic Council helps new species," said Threx. "We can offer you protection. You can become what we call a protectorate. We will give you some of our technology and protect you from danger. In return, you give us mining rights to your worlds and agree to follow our laws." The human team exchanged glances. This was exactly what Earth's government had expected. The aliens saw humans as primitive and weak, needing their help to survive. "That's very generous," Deho said, "but I'll need to talk to my government first." "Of course," said Kelon. "While you wait for their answer, you can stay here as our guests. We will show you more of our great civilization." Over the next few days, the aliens continued their tours. They showed the humans their biggest warships, their fastest computers, their most powerful weapons. Each time, they expected the humans to be amazed. And each time, Deho and his team had to hide their shock at how primitive everything was. On the third day, Deho sent a message back to Earth. He used the Soul's Pride's communication system, which could send messages instantly across the galaxy. The aliens' fastest messages took weeks to travel the same distance. "Earth Command, this is Captain Kim," he said into the recorder. "First contact has been successful. The locals are friendly but consider us primitive. They've offered us protectorate status. The galaxy seems to be much less advanced than we expected. Their most powerful technology is roughly equal to what we had about 200 years ago. Requesting instructions on how to proceed." Bora looked at her captain after he finished recording. "Sir, should we tell them the truth about our technology?" Deho thought for a moment. "Not yet. Let's see what Earth Command says first. We don't want to scare them. These people have been the strongest in the galaxy for thousands of years. Learning that a new species is far ahead of them might cause problems." "But sir," said Dr. Yansu, "they keep talking about protecting us from dangers. What if something really is out there?" "Then we'll deal with it when the time comes," Deho said. "For now, we wait and learn, and we try very hard not to break anything by accident." Outside the Soul's Pride, the massive alien station continued its slow orbit around a dead star. Thousands of aliens went about their daily business, proud of their great civilization and happy to help another primitive species join the galactic community. None of them suspected that the small human ship docked at Bay 47 could destroy their entire station without even trying hard. 3 weeks had passed since the humans arrived at Nexus Station. The talks were going well, but very slowly. Every day, the alien council members met with the human team to discuss trade deals and protection agreements. Ambassador Yoonji Park had arrived on a second human ship to help with the negotiations. She was older than Captain Deho and very experienced in dealing with difficult situations. The aliens liked her because she was always polite and seemed interested in their offers. "The Outer Rim mining rights are very valuable," Counselor Threx explained for the 10th time that week. "Your people would be lucky to get them. Most new species have to wait centuries before we trust them with such important work." "We're very grateful," Yoonji said with a smile. "But I'm curious about your mining equipment. How deep can you dig? What kind of materials can you extract?" Threx's 6 arms moved proudly. "Our best mining machines can dig down 5 kilometers. We can extract most metals, some rare crystals, and even small amounts of quantum matter." Yoonji nodded as if impressed. But she was thinking about the mining robots back on Earth that could dig to the planet's core and extract any element from the periodic table. While the adults talked politics, Tae-Min Choi was having more interesting conversations. He was the Soul's Pride's chief engineer, and the aliens had asked him to look at some problems they were having with their station. The quantum processors keep breaking down, explained Zektar, the station's head engineer. He was one of the crystal aliens, and his body glowed different colors when he was excited or worried. Right now, he was glowing orange with frustration. It's probably just a calibration issue, Taemin said, looking at the alien computer systems. Mind if I take a look? Zektar's crystal body flashed yellow with surprise. You understand quantum processors? That's very advanced technology. Taemin almost laughed. The alien quantum processors were simpler than the coffee machine in his quarters. I've worked with similar systems before. He spent an hour looking at their setup. The processors were old, poorly maintained, and running software that had more bugs than actual code. But they were also kind of charming in their simplicity. I think I can fix this, Taemin said. He pulled out his tablet and connected it to their system. The tablet was standard human equipment given to every crew member for basic tasks. What is that device? Zektar asked, his body now glowing bright blue with curiosity. Just a work tablet, Taemin said. Let me run some diagnostics. His tablet finished scanning the alien computer system in about 3 seconds. Then it started making automatic repairs, updating the software and optimizing the hardware connections. Within 10 minutes, the quantum processors were running better than they had in decades. Zektar stared at the readings in shock. His crystal body was flashing so many colors it looked like a rainbow. This is impossible. The system is running at 300% efficiency. What did you do? Just some basic maintenance, Taemin said, putting his tablet away. Your system was pretty good. It just needed some minor updates. Minor updates? Zektar's voice got very high. You increased our computational power by more than any upgrade in the last century. What kind of civilization are you from? Taemin realized he might have made a mistake. We're just good with computers, I guess. Word of the miracle repair spread quickly through the station. Counselor Threx called an emergency meeting with the human delegation. Engineer Choi, Threx said, his voice very serious. What you did to our computer system was remarkable. Such technology should not be possible for a new spacefaring species. We've always been good with technology, Yunji said smoothly. Humans are natural problem solvers. Admiral Kirin leaned forward in his chair. No species develops quantum computing mastery without centuries of advancement. Either you're lying about being new to space travel, or you're hiding something important. Yunji looked at Daeho, who nodded slightly. They had agreed that if the aliens started asking direct questions, they would give honest but careful answers. You're right, Yunji said. We haven't been completely open about our capabilities. We didn't want to cause any problems or misunderstandings. What kind of capabilities? Threx asked. Yunji pulled out her datapad, the same type that Taemin had used. This is standard equipment for any human. It has more computing power than your station's main computer. The alien stared at the small device. Quilon's crystal body went completely white with shock. That's impossible. A device that small couldn't possibly... Would you like me to demonstrate? Yunji asked. Before anyone could answer, alarms started, ringing throughout the station. A voice came over the speakers in the alien language, which the humans' translators quickly converted. Emergency alert! Pirate attack in the Kelvar system! All available ships respond immediately! Admiral Kirin stood up quickly. Pirates have attacked a trade convoy. We must send our battle fleet immediately. How long will it take your ships to get there? Daeho asked. 2 days at maximum speed, Kirin said. But by then, the pirates will be gone with their stolen goods. The Soul's Pride could be there in 4 hours, Daeho said casually. The room went silent. Admiral Kirin stared at the human captain. 4 hours? That's impossible. The Kelvar system is 3 light years away. Our engines are pretty fast, Daeho said with a shrug. Even if you could get there that quickly, Kirin said, what could one small ship do against a pirate fleet? They have 20 warships, each, one bigger than your vessel. Daeho looked at his team. Bo-Ra was trying not to smile. Tai Min was looking at his tablet, probably already calculating weapon solutions. Yunji nodded at him. I guess we could take a look, Daeho said. If it's too dangerous, we'll just observe and report back. Admiral Kieran's face showed confusion and worry. Captain Kim, I admire your courage, but this is suicide. Pirate ships are armed with plasma cannons and particle beams. They could destroy your ship in seconds. We'll be careful, Daeho promised. 1 hour later, the Soul's Pride left Nexus Station. The aliens watched on their sensors as the small, human ship accelerated to impossible speeds and disappeared into hyperspace. 3 hours after that, reports started coming in from the Kelvar system. The messages were confused and excited. Nexus Control, this is Kelvar Station. The pirates are gone. What do you mean, gone? Threx asked over the communication link. They just disappeared. There was a bright flash, and then all 20 pirate ships were floating dead in space. No explosions, no debris. They just stopped working. What about the human ship? It's here. Captain Kim is asking if we need any medical assistance for the convoy cruise. Threx looked at Admiral Kyran, who was staring at the communications console with his mouth open. Kelvar Station, Threx said slowly. How long did the battle last? Battle? There was no battle. The human ship arrived, there was a flash of light, and the pirates were disabled. The whole thing took maybe 30 seconds. In the meeting room, the alien leaders sat in stunned silence. Finally, Ambassador Quilon spoke up, his crystal body now completely transparent with shock. Counselor Threx, he said quietly, I don't think these humans are a primitive species that needs our protection. Admiral Kieran was still staring at the communications console. 20 ships, he whispered. They disabled 20 pirate warships in 30 seconds. Yunji cleared her throat politely. Perhaps we should discuss those trade agreements again. I think we might have more to offer than mining rights in the Outer Rim. Outside the station, stars shined peacefully in the darkness of space. But inside, Nexus Station, the alien council members were starting to understand that their galaxy had just changed forever. The humans had been polite and friendly, asking questions and seeming interested in alien technology. But now it was clear they had been holding back, being careful not to show their true capabilities. Threx's 6 arms trembled as he thought about what this meant. If the Soul's Pride was just a small exploration ship, what were the big human warships like? He was afraid he might find out soon. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Within days, every major civilization knew about the humans and what they had done to the pirate fleet. Fear, curiosity, and worry traveled from world to world as species that had never agreed on anything suddenly found themselves united by a single concern. The humans were far more advanced than anyone had imagined. High Chancellor Vex of the Trade Federation called Admiral Breck Knoll of the military caste at 3. In the morning, ship time. We need to talk, Vex said without any greeting. The humans destroyed 20 ships in 30 seconds. I know, Breck Knoll replied. His voice sounded tired and worried. My intelligence officers have been sending reports all night. Whatever weapon they used, we've never seen anything like it. This changes everything, Vex said. If they can do that to pirates, what could they do to us? Similar conversations were happening all across the galaxy. The Zafrani Empire called emergency meetings. The Crystal Coalition activated their defense fleets. The Techno Republic started analyzing every piece of data they could find about human technology. Within a week, something happened that hadn't occurred in over 200 years. The Great Assembly was called. Every major power in the galaxy would send representatives to the neutral meeting place at Harmony's Rest. Species that had been enemies for centuries would sit in the same room to discuss the human problem, because that's what they were calling it now, the human problem. Back on Earth, Admiral Wu Jin-ha received his orders while drinking his morning coffee. The message was marked with the highest priority level and came directly from the Global Defense Council. Admiral Ha. The message read, "You are ordered to take command of the diplomatic mission to the Great Assembly. The aliens want to meet with our leadership, so we're sending our newest ship to make sure they understand who they're dealing with. The new Busan is being prepared for departure. Good luck." Wu Jin almost choked on his coffee. The new Busan was one of their newest Titan-class vessels, fresh from the shipyards on Luna. It was designed to serve as a mobile command center for large fleet operations. Taking it to a diplomatic meeting was like bringing a battleship to a peace talk. But if Earth's leaders wanted to make an impression, the new Busan would certainly do that. Ambassador So Young Kang was already waiting for him at the space dock. She was one of Earth's most experienced diplomats, calm and patient even in the worst situations. She would need those skills for this mission. "Admiral," she said as they met at the ship's entrance, "have you seen the intelligence reports from Nexus Station?" "I have," Wu Jin replied. "The aliens are scared. They think we might be a threat to them." "Can you blame them?" So Young asked. "From their perspective, we appeared out of nowhere. With technology they can't understand. They're probably wondering if we're planning to conquer the galaxy." "Are we?" Wu Jin asked with a slight smile. So Young laughed. "I hope not. We have enough problems managing Earth without trying to run." 47 alien civilizations. As they walked through the ship, Wu Jin marveled at what human engineering had accomplished. The new Busan was 15 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. It housed a crew of 50,000, complete manufacturing facilities, research, laboratories, and enough firepower to defend an entire star system. It was also one of the most beautiful ships ever built. The hull was made of smart materials that could change color and texture. Right now, it showed a deep blue that seemed to contain swirling galaxies of stars. "Sir," said Captain Insu Park as they reached the bridge, "we're ready for departure. The crew is excited about the mission." Wu Jin looked around the bridge. It was enormous, with workstations for hundreds of officers. But today, only a small crew was needed. The ship's AI could handle most operations automatically. "Set course. For Harmony's Rest," Wu Jin ordered. "Maximum diplomatic speed." "Yes, sir," Insu replied. "ETA is 4 days." As the new Busan left Earth's solar system, emergency meetings were being held across the galaxy. The aliens had learned that the humans were sending a ship to the Great Assembly, but their deep space sensors couldn't get clear readings on it. What they could detect made no sense. "The object is 15.7 kilometers in length," reported sensor specialist Yartek to the assembled Valtori fleet commanders. "But that can't be right. No ship could be that large." Fleet Admiral Kiran stared at the readings. "Check your instruments again." "I've checked them 6 times, sir. The readings are correct. The human ship is larger than our biggest space station." Admiral Kiran felt sick. He had been planning to demand that the humans prove their peaceful intentions. But if they could build ships that size, they could probably destroy his entire fleet without slowing down. At Harmony's Rest Station, the preparations were massive. Representatives from every major species were arriving daily. The station, which was already one of the largest structures in the galaxy, was straining to house all the delegations. War Master Kraloth of the military caste brought 50 of his best officers. Ambassador Quailon arrived with a team of scientists and analysts. Even the mysterious shadow traders, who rarely showed themselves to other species, sent a representative. Everyone wanted to see the humans for themselves. "How many ships are in the human fleet?" asked Representative Martel of the Science Consortium. "Fleet?" replied Station Commander Vokris. "There's only 1 ship." "That's impossible," Martel said. "No species sends just 1 ship to the Great Assembly. It would be an insult." "Maybe they don't understand our customs," Vokris suggested. But privately he was worried. What if the humans thought 1 ship was enough because it was so powerful? 3 days before the new Busan was scheduled. To arrive, something unprecedented happened. Every major military fleet in the galaxy moved to the Harmony's rest system. Over 10,000 warships from dozens of different species took up positions around the station. It wasn't planned as an attack force. Each fleet commander said they were just providing security for their delegation. But the result was the largest gathering of military power in galactic history. Admiral Chiron stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the tactical display. Thousands of alien ships surrounded the station like a protective shell. Ships that had been shooting at each other just months ago now floated side by side, united by their concern about the approaching human vessel. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the human ship is approaching the system boundary." On screen, Chiron ordered. The main display showed empty space, but the sensors were definitely tracking something huge moving toward them at incredible speed. "Sir," his sensor operator said, his voice shaking, "the object is decelerating. It should be visible any moment." Across the assembled fleet, 10,000 crews watched their screens and waited. Some were curious, some were afraid, but all of them wanted to see what the humans had brought to this historic meeting. And then the new Busan dropped out of hyperspace. For a moment, nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed. The human ship was impossible. It was larger than some moons. Its hull gleamed with materials that seemed to bend light around them. Strange energies played across its surface like captured lightning. "By the void," whispered Admiral Chiron. "What have we done?" On the communications channels, voices started speaking at once. Ship commanders called for reinforcements. Scientists demanded detailed scans. Politicians demanded immediate evacuation. But through it all, the new Busan simply hung in space, beautiful and terrible and utterly overwhelming. On its bridge, Admiral Wu Jin watched the chaos on the alien communication channels with amusement. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving over 3,000 hails from different ships. Most of them want to know our intentions." "Open a channel to Harmony's rest station," Wu Jin ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves properly. Ambassador." So Young stepped forward. When her image appeared on screens across the system, she smiled warmly. "Greetings to all representatives of the Great Assembly," she said. "I am Ambassador So Young Kang of the Human Confederation. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to build a better future for all species in the galaxy. We look forward to meeting with you soon." The message was simple and friendly. But as the alien representatives looked at the massive ship behind her, they realized that the galaxy had just changed forever. Nothing would ever be the same again. The Great Assembly Hall had never seen anything like this before. Representatives from 47 different species sat in carefully arranged sections, but the usual political divisions seemed meaningless now. Everyone was focused on the human delegation that had just entered the room. Ambassador So Young Kang walked calmly to the central speaking area, followed by Admiral Wu Jin Ha and their small team of advisors. They moved with the quiet confidence of people who knew exactly how powerful they were, but chose to be polite about it. Behind them, through the massive viewing windows, the new Busan hung in space like a second moon. Its presence dominated everything, making even the largest alien warships look like tiny toys. Supreme Chancellor Vex of the Trade Federation stood up first. He was a tall, thin creature with gray skin and too many eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "Ambassador Kang," he began, "the Galactic Council welcomes humanity to this historic gathering. However, we must address some concerns about your impressive display of technology." So Young bowed slightly. "We're honored to be here, Chancellor." "Vex, what concerns do you have?" War Master Kraloth rose from his seat. He was a massive creature covered in thick armor plates, representing the galaxy's most aggressive military species. Your ship, he said, pointing at the viewing window, is larger than our biggest space cities. No species builds vessels that size unless they plan to use them for conquest. I understand your concern, So Young replied calmly. But the new Busan is primarily an exploration and research vessel. We brought it because Earth's leaders wanted to make sure we could communicate properly with all the assembled representatives. Several aliens made sounds of disbelief. Admiral Chiron of the Valtori Empire stood up, his face showing obvious anger. Do you expect us to believe that monster is just for research? He demanded. What weapons does it carry? What are your real intentions in our galaxy? Admiral Wu Jin stepped forward. His voice was quiet but carried clearly through the hall. War Master Kraloth, Admiral Chiron, I understand your worries. Perhaps a demonstration would help ease your concerns? The alien leaders exchanged glances. Ambassador Quilon's crystal body flashed nervous colors as he spoke. What kind of demonstration? A simple one, Wu Jin said. He touched a control on his wrist communicator. Computer, please show our guests the asteroid field in Sector 7. The main display screen lit up, showing a view of space about 50 kilometers from the station. Floating in the darkness were hundreds of large asteroids, each one the size of a small building. They drifted randomly, bumping into each other in a chaotic dance. This asteroid field has been a navigation hazard for decades, Wu Jin explained. Ships have to go around it, adding days to their journey. We'd like to help fix this problem. How? Asked Chancellor Vex suspiciously. Wu Jin smiled. Computer, activate gravity manipulation system. Gentle setting, please. On the screen, something impossible began to happen. The asteroids started moving. Slowly at first, then with increasing precision, they rearranged themselves into perfect, geometric patterns. Within minutes, the chaotic field had become a beautiful crystal structure, with clear paths between the organized rocks. The assembled aliens stared in stunned silence. What they had just witnessed was beyond their understanding. The humans had moved hundreds of massive objects across kilometers of space with no visible effort. The navigation hazard is now cleared, Wu Jin announced. Ships can travel through the area safely, and the asteroid formation makes an interesting landmark. Dr. Hyun-Soo Park, one of the human technical advisors, stepped forward. He was a young man with a friendly face who looked like he might be a university professor. If I may, he said politely, we'd also like to share some basic technologies, as a gesture of goodwill. He activated a holographic projector that showed detailed diagrams of human fusion reactors. The aliens leaned forward to study the images, and their expressions slowly changed from curiosity to shock. These power output. Readings, whispered Chief Engineer Zarmon of the Techno Republic. They can't be correct. Your civilian reactors produce more energy than our most advanced military power plants. These are just standard designs, Hyun-Soo said casually. We use them for everything from city power grids to small spacecraft. Would you like copies of the technical specifications? The offer sent waves of excitement and fear through the assembled delegates. Technology that advanced could revolutionize their civilizations or make their current military forces completely obsolete. Admiral Chiron stood up again, his face red with anger and frustration. This is all very impressive, he said loudly. But how do we know you humans can be trusted? You show us impossible technology and claim peaceful intentions. Prove it. How would you like us to prove it? So Young asked calmly. Show us that. You can't simply destroy us all whenever you want, Chiron shouted. Demonstrate that our fleets could actually defend against your weapons. Admiral Wu Jin looked at So Young, who nodded slightly. Very well, he said. Computer, perform a tactical analysis of all ships in the system. Analysis complete, came the ship's AI voice through the communication system. How long did that take? Wu Jin asked. 3.7 minutes, Admiral. The alien representatives looked confused. Counselor Threx raised one of his 6 arms. I don't understand. What analysis? Admiral Wu Jin touched his communicator again. Computer, transmit the tactical files to all fleet commanders. Across the system, alarm bells started ringing on every alien warship. Communications officers frantically called their captains as impossible data appeared on their screens. Admiral! Came a panicked voice over Chiron's communicator. Sir, the humans just sent us complete technical specifications for every ship in our fleet. They know everything. Our weapons, our defenses, our weak points, everything. Similar reports came from every fleet commander. The humans had somehow scanned and analyzed over 10,000 different spacecraft in less than 4 minutes. They knew exactly how every weapon worked, where every armor plate was weakest, how every engine could be disabled. In the assembly hall, the alien delegates sat in shocked silence as they realized what this meant. The humans hadn't threatened them or fired a single shot, but they had just proven they could have disabled every ship in the system without breaking a sweat. This was just a scanning demonstration, Admiral Wu Jin explained gently. We wanted you to understand that if we meant you harm, this conversation would have been unnecessary. War Master Kraloth sank back into his chair, looking defeated. You could have destroyed us all before we even knew you were there. Yes, Admiral Wu Jin agreed. But we didn't want to do that. We want to be friends. Ambassador So Young stepped forward again. We understand that our technology is intimidating, but we're not here to conquer or control anyone. We're here because we believe the galaxy would be better if all species worked together. She paused and smiled warmly at the assembled delegates. For example, we've developed medical treatments that could extend the lifespan of most species by several centuries. We'd be happy to share them. The announcement sent another wave of shock through the hall. Longer lifespans had been the dream of every species for thousands of years. Dr. Hyun Soo activated his holographic projector again, showing images of human medical technology. These treatments are completely safe and have no negative side effects. We've been using them on Earth for over 50 years. Chancellor Vex stood up slowly, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly. You're offering to share technology that could let us live for centuries? Among other things, So Young confirmed. We have solutions for most diseases, techniques for growing organs and limbs, and methods for repairing genetic damage. We believe everyone deserves a long and healthy life. The alien delegates began talking excitedly among themselves. The offer was beyond anything they had imagined possible. Admiral Kieran raised his hand for attention. His voice was much quieter now, almost humble. Ambassador Kang, what do you want in return for all this? So Young thought for a moment before answering. Peace, she said simply. We want to live in a galaxy where different species work together instead of fighting each other. We want to explore new worlds and learn new things. And we want to help everyone reach their full potential. She gestured toward the viewing window, where the new Busan continued its silent orbit. We have the power to take whatever we want from the galaxy, but we've learned that taking things by force never leads to real happiness. We'd rather build something better together. The great assembly hall fell silent as the alien representatives considered her words. Outside, 10,000 warships held their positions, but their crews now understood they were completely outmatched. The galaxy had indeed changed forever, but maybe, just maybe, it was changing for the better. The weeks following the Great Assembly were unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. News of the human demonstration spread faster than light itself, carried by merchant ships, diplomatic couriers, and emergency military dispatches to every corner of civilized space. The reactions were as varied as the species themselves. The Zafrani Empire immediately recalled all their fleets to their home systems and began building defensive stations around their most important worlds. The Crystal Coalition started sending gifts and friendship messages to every human ship they could find. The Shadow Traders, mysterious as always, simply vanished from all their usual haunts. But it was the smaller species that reacted most dramatically, The Kelton Republic, whose tiny fleet consisted of 12 outdated patrol ships, declared themselves humanity's eternal allies and offered their entire military budget for one human medical scanner. The Brightwing Federation disbanded their army completely and converted their weapons factories to make art supplies. Captain Dong-hyun Yoon found himself in the middle of this chaos while commanding the patrol ship Incheon Guardian. What should have been a routine patrol of the outer spiral had turned into a nightmare of diplomatic incidents and panicked aliens. Captain called his communications officer, Lieutenant Mei-ri Shin. We're getting distress calls from 3 different systems. The Veclans are asking for protection from the Mordani. The Mordani want us to verify that they're not planning to attack anyone, and the Bright Wings are begging us to accept their surrender. Dong-hyun rubbed his forehead tiredly. We're not at war with the Bright Wings. Why do they want to surrender? They're afraid we might think they're a threat, sir. They've offered to give us their entire star system if we promise not to hurt them. The Incheon Guardian was classified as a small patrol ship by human standards. It was only 200 meters long and carried a crew of 30. But in this part of the galaxy, it had become the most feared vessel anyone had ever seen. Set course for the Veclan system, Dong-hyun ordered with a sigh. Let's see if we can calm everyone down before somebody does something stupid. Meanwhile, at the center of galactic civilization, the Galactic Council was falling apart. The emergency session had been going on for 6 days straight. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of different languages, while translators struggled to keep up. The carefully maintained balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for thousands of years was crumbling. The humans have made our entire military obsolete, War Master Kraloth roared, smashing his armored fist on the council table. Every weapon we've built, every strategy we've developed, it's all useless now. Then we must adapt, replied Ambassador Kylon, his crystal body flickering with nervous energy. Fighting them would be suicide. We need to find ways to work with them. Work with them? Chancellor Vex's multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession. They could destroy our civilizations without effort. How do we negotiate with gods? The argument was interrupted when Admiral Chiron burst into the chamber. His usually perfect uniform was wrinkled and his face showed exhaustion. The Krovar Empire has mobilized their entire fleet, he announced breathlessly. They're planning a preemptive strike against the human exploration ship in the Beta sector. The council chamber fell silent. The Krovar were known throughout the galaxy as the most aggressive and warlike species. If anyone was foolish enough to attack the humans directly, it would be them. How many ships? Asked Counselor Threx quietly. Their entire battle fleet, 800 warships, including their newest dreadnoughts. Chancellor Vex closed his eyes in despair. They're going to get themselves destroyed, and probably start a war that will consume the entire galaxy. 3 hours later, the human exploration ship Bright Star received an urgent message from Earth Command. The message was brief and clear. Krovar fleet approaching your position with hostile intent. Admiral Wu Jin Ha is en route with support. Maintain peaceful posture unless directly attacked. Captain Han Sol Lee read the message twice before calling his senior officers to the bridge. The Bright Star was even smaller than the Incheon Guardian, designed for deep space exploration rather than combat. Her crew of 18 scientists and engineers had been studying a fascinating nebula when the crisis began. Sir, reported his sensor operator, I'm detecting a large fleet approaching. 812 ships, definitely Krovar design. Any signs of hostile action? Hansol asked calmly. They're charging weapons and moving into attack formation. Hansol nodded. Send them a standard greeting. Let them know we're conducting peaceful scientific research and pose no threat to anyone. The response came back within minutes. It was not polite. Human vessel, came the snarling voice of Krovar Fleet Commander Grixtar. You have violated our territorial claims and threaten our sovereignty with your presence. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Han Solo looked at his small crew. Most of them were scientists, not soldiers, but they all understood what was happening. "Computer," he said quietly, "record a message for transmission to Earth Command." "Recording," came the ship's AI voice. "This is Captain Han Sol Lee of the exploration vessel Bright Star. We are under attack by Krovar forces. We have attempted peaceful communication, but they have refused. We will defend ourselves as necessary." Message ends. The Krovar fleet moved into final attack position. 800 warships, each one larger and more heavily armed than the tiny human vessel, prepared to fire. And then Admiral Wu Jin Ha arrived. The new Busan dropped out of hyperspace like an avenging angel, its massive hull gleaming with barely contained power. But it didn't come alone. 2 other Titan-class ships materialized beside it, their arrival sending gravitational waves rippling through local space. On the bridge of his flagship, Fleet Commander Grix Tar stared at his tactical display in growing horror. 3 ships! 3 human ships that were each larger than his entire fleet. "Sir," his weapons officer reported in a trembling voice, "the humans are scanning us." "Return fire," Grix Tar roared. "All ships, open fire. 800 Krovar warships unleashed their full firepower at the 3 human vessels. Plasma cannons, particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and fusion missiles filled space with destructive energy. It was the largest coordinated attack in galactic military history. When the light faded, the 3 human ships hung unchanged in space. Their shields hadn't even flickered. Admiral Wu Jin's voice came over the communication channels, calm and patient. "Fleet Commander Grix Tar, you have attacked peaceful vessels engaged in scientific research. This is your only warning to cease hostile actions." Grix Tar's response was to order another full fleet assault. Once again, hundreds of ships poured their weapons into the human vessels. Once again, the attack accomplished nothing. "Computer," Admiral Wu Jin said with a sigh, "implement containment protocol, minimal force setting." What happened next was almost gentle. Fields of energy reached out from the human ships and simply stopped the Krovar vessels. Not destroyed, not damaged, just frozen in space with their weapons and engines disabled. In seconds, the entire Krovar battle fleet was helplessly floating dead in space. "Krovar vessels," Admiral Wu Jin announced. "Your ships have been disabled, but your crews are unharmed. You will be towed to the nearest neutral station where you can contact your government. Any further attacks on human vessels or civilians will result in more serious consequences." The demonstration was broadcast live across the galaxy by news networks and military observers. Every species watched as humanity's most aggressive enemies were defeated without firing a shot. The psychological impact was devastating. If the mighty Krovar Empire could be neutralized so easily, what hope did anyone else have? Within days, the old Galactic Council formally dissolved itself. New governments formed overnight as species rushed to align themselves with humanity. Trade routes that had been contested for centuries were abandoned as everyone focused on staying in the humans' good graces. Captain Dong Hyun received new orders while mediating a dispute between the Veclons and 3 other species who were all trying to surrender to him at the same time. "Captain," Lieutenant Mayri reported, "Earth Command is establishing the Human Uplift Program. We're being assigned to help coordinate peaceful transitions of government in this sector." Dong Hyun looked out at the dozens of alien ships that had gathered around the Ancient Guardian, all of them broadcasting messages of friendship and requests for protection. "I didn't sign up to be a galactic policeman," he muttered. "Sir, we're also getting reports that several species have started worshipping our ship as a divine artifact." Dong Hyun closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Just another day in the new galaxy," he said. Outside his ship, representatives from a dozen different species waited patiently for audiences with the human crew. They brought gifts, treaties, technological exchanges, and desperate pleas for guidance. The galaxy had indeed changed forever. The old order of competing empires and constant conflict was dead, replaced by something new and strange and unprecedented. Whether it would be better remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. There was no going back to the way things used to be. 5 years had passed since first contact, and the galaxy was unrecognizable. Commander Ji-Hai Seo stood on the observation deck of New Seoul Station, looking out at what had once been empty space. Now, dozens of ships from different species moved, in careful patterns around the massive orbital facility. Freighters carried medical supplies to distant worlds, research vessels conducted joint scientific missions, and construction ships worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species. "Commander," called Dr. Vorthon, her Centauri research partner, as he approached with his usual cheerful enthusiasm. The latest reports from the medical program are remarkable. The Kelton Republic reports a 340% increase in average lifespan. The Bright Wing Federation has eliminated 7 genetic diseases that plagued them for millennia. Ji-Hai smiled. Dr. Vorthon had been one of the first aliens to fully embrace the new reality. When other species were still afraid of human technology, he had volunteered to work directly with human scientists. Now he was one of her closest colleagues and friends. "That's wonderful news," she said. "What about the other programs?" "Energy distribution is ahead of schedule. We've replaced outdated power systems on over 200 worlds. Agricultural improvements are feeding populations that were facing starvation just last year. And the education exchange programs are creating a generation of young aliens who think of humans as teachers and friends rather than mysterious overlords." The Human Uplift program had become much larger than anyone expected. What started as simple technology sharing had grown into a comprehensive effort to help every species reach their full potential. Human advisors worked on thousands of worlds, solving problems that had seemed impossible just a few years ago, but not everyone was happy with the changes. In a hidden base on the edge of known space, former Admiral Chiron met with other disgruntled military leaders from across the galaxy. The room was filled with representatives from a dozen different species, united only by their resentment of the new order. "The humans have made us weak," Chiron declared, his fist striking the metal table. "Our people grow soft under their protection. Our warriors become farmers and artists. Our proud fleets are turned into cargo haulers and rescue ships." General Threshka of the Mordani Empire nodded agreement. "My soldiers ask why they should train when the humans will protect us from any threat. My engineers study human technology. Instead of developing our own, we are becoming dependent children." "Then we must remind the galaxy what strength looks like," said war leader Vex Nor of the Savage clans. "The humans cannot be everywhere at once. If we strike quickly and decisively against their weaker allies, we can show that their protection has limits." But their planning was interrupted by alarms blaring throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels as panicked voices reported impossible readings on long-range sensors. "Unknown fleet approaching from outside the galaxy," came the urgent announcement. "Massive vessels of unknown design. All military forces report to emergency stations immediately." The conspirators looked at each other with growing fear. Whatever was approaching was large enough to trigger galaxy-wide alerts. On New Seoul Station, Ji-Hai received the emergency reports with growing concern. The approaching ships were unlike anything in any database, massive geometric structures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Commander," Dr. Vorthon said, his usual cheerfulness replaced by worry, "the sensor readings are impossible. These ships are each the size of small moons." Admiral Wu Jin's voice came over the communication system from his flagship. "All stations, this is Admiral Ha. We have identified the approaching fleet as harvester units, a machine intelligence that consumes organic life. They have destroyed dozens of galaxies across the universe. All civilian populations are to evacuate to designated safe zones immediately." The announcement sent waves of panic across the galaxy. The harvesters were a myth, a story told to frighten children. But the sensor readings were undeniable. Something vast and hostile was approaching at incredible speed. Within hours, the greatest fleet in galactic history assembled to meet the threat. Human Titan-class ships formed the core of the defense, surrounded by thousands of allied vessels from every species. Even former enemies like the Krovar Empire sent their remaining ships to join the united response. But when the Harvester fleet arrived, it became clear that this enemy was unlike anything the galaxy had faced before. The machine ships were massive beyond comprehension, each one a perfect black pyramid that seemed to bend space around it. They moved with terrifying purpose, ignoring the assembled fleet as they headed directly for inhabited worlds. "All ships, engage the enemy," Admiral Wu Jin commanded. The combined galactic fleet opened fire with everything they had: human energy, weapons, alien plasma cannons, experimental quantum torpedoes. Every weapon in the galaxy struck the Harvester ships simultaneously. The attacks simply disappeared into the black hulls without any effect. Captain Dong Hyun watched from the bridge of his ship as the Harvesters began their assault on the galaxy's outer worlds. Beams of dark energy reached out from the pyramid ships, and entire planets simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, but converted into energy to fuel the machine intelligence. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're getting evacuation. Requests from over 50 systems. The Harvesters are moving faster than we can respond." But Admiral Wu Jin had a plan. "All Titan-class vessels, implement quantum disruption protocols. We're going to hit them with everything we have at the same time." What followed was a display of human technological power that dwarfed anything seen before. Dozens of massive human ships coordinated their most advanced weapon systems, creating a focused assault that literally tore holes in space-time itself. The quantum disruption struck the lead Harvester ship like the fist of an angry god. For a moment, the perfect black pyramid flickered and wavered. Then it exploded in a burst of light that could be seen from neighboring galaxies. The remaining Harvester ships stopped their advance and turned toward the human fleet. For the first time in billions of years, they had encountered something that could actually threaten them. The battle that followed lasted 3 days and reshaped the understanding of what was possible in warfare. Human ships fought with weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe, while the Harvesters responded with technologies that existed outside normal physics. When it was over, the machine fleet was destroyed, but the cost had been enormous. Several Titan-class ships were damaged beyond repair, and thousands of smaller vessels from allied species had been lost defending their homes. In the aftermath, as rescue operations searched for survivors and reconstruction efforts began, something remarkable happened. The galaxy didn't fall apart or return to old conflicts. Instead, the shared threat had created bonds stronger than anything before. Species that had been enemies for millennia worked side by side to rebuild damaged worlds. Former military leaders like Admiral Chiron abandoned their plots and volunteered to help coordinate relief efforts. The experience of facing extinction together had taught everyone what truly mattered. Ambassador So Young, now elderly but still sharp, stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly 5 years later. Her hair was gray and her movements slower, but her voice remained strong as she addressed the gathered representatives. 10 years ago, this galaxy was divided, she said. Dozens of species competed for resources, fought over territory, and lived in fear of each other. Today, we have something unprecedented in galactic history: true unity. She gestured to the viewing screen, which showed images from across the galaxy. Human and alien children played together in integrated schools. Mixed species research teams worked on projects that would benefit everyone. Trade flowed freely between worlds that had once been enemies. The Harvester attack taught us an important lesson, So Young continued. The universe is vast and dangerous, filled with threats we can't imagine. But together, we are stronger than any single challenge. Together, we can build something that will last. Dr. Vorthen, now director of the Interspecies Science Council, nodded agreement from his seat in the assembly. "The old galaxy is indeed gone forever," he said. "But what we have built in its place is something our ancestors could never have dreamed of." Outside the assembly hall, ships from 100 different species worked together on the latest project, a massive space station that would serve as a monument to unity and a defense against future threats. Human engineering provided the foundation, but every species contributed their own unique technologies and perspectives. The galaxy had not recovered from humanity's arrival. It had transformed into something entirely new, a confederation of species working together toward common goals, protected by human technology, but guided by shared wisdom and mutual respect. New alien species still made first contact regularly, approaching human vessels with the same mixture of hope and nervousness that humanity had once felt. Each new arrival was welcomed into the growing galactic community, offered the same opportunities for growth and advancement that had transformed so many others. Commander G. Hai, now promoted to Director of First Contact Operations, often met these new species personally.